Hi, this is Era, the host of the Tamil Creator Podcast, where I learn about, celebrate, and discuss hot topics with creators from all over the world.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hi, everyone. This is Era from the Tamil Creator, episode 3, and today we're going to be chatting with Dilani Rabindran. Before I butcher anything else, why don't we start off the discussion today with a bit about yourself?
Sure. So thanks for having me on the show, Era. I'm very happy to be here. Congrats on the show. So my name is Dilani and I run Viewfinder Film Consulting. So it's a independent consulting firm that I started in 2016 that markets and sells independent South Asian movies around the world. And I started it while I was living in India and working there, but I transitioned to running it here from my home in Canada. I'm also full-time. I work for Cineplex as a manager of marketing partnerships and do a couple of other things on the side too.
That's awesome. And I should have actually said this first, but I actually first heard about Dilani. Well, she was writing a few things for TC, but I'm a big fan of film. I love people that are creative. I'm not creative at all. So I found it really amazing that you were in that space, but kind of from like a business perspective, and which I find interesting as well. So that's a bit of kind of how I learned about you. And I just kind of been just keeping an eye on like what you've been up to. And I think we also connected because I believe you either helped produce or part of a launch at TIFF of a movie called Kakamute, right?
Yeah, so I can't take any credit for producing that movie. Oh gosh, no, I'm not. Dhanush and Vetrimaran produced that, but I was working for the Toronto International Film Festival at the time, assisting with South Asian programming, and I helped choose that film. So I chose Kakamute to have its world premiere in Toronto in 2014. And director Manikandan, it was his first movie. When he came to Toronto, we just became fast friends, and he's still a mentor to this day. And a lot of my work in the field and why I went to India to get film production experience and everything was all, in with the help of him. And I worked with his team when I was there. And so, yeah, Kakamute is a really big milestone, I think, in my career and really helped jump off start a lot of things from there. Yeah.
Yeah, I miss TIFF. I miss the energy of going.
Yeah, me too.
TIFF, so
yeah, the virtual version last fall was, it was nice because we still got a lot of, exciting new movies to watch online, but it's not the same as, being in even the lineups. I even miss the long lineups to just get into a venue.
It's the anticipation when you think about it. For example, going on a trip. The trip is half the fun. The other half is kind of talking about, I'm going to go on a trip.
Yeah. So. I also really like planning. And like TIFF planning used to be like vacation planning for me because I would have my crazy schedules of to make sure I didn't miss like any of the movies I wanted to and run between public screenings and press screenings and everything. So I miss that part.
Tell us a bit more about Viewfinder Film Consulting. I know you kind of hit on it a bit, but tell us, I'm interested in maybe users as well, or viewers would be like, how do you make money from it? Like, how does somebody make money in the film space?
Well, part of the reason I moved back to Canada and went back to full-time work after moving back here. And, it was because it's hard to earn rupees and live in dollars, right? So naturally, but how does VFC operate? So we represent films, mainly, I would say the biggest arm of our business is representing films for film festivals. So when I was working at TIFF, like I mentioned, I assisted with South Asian programming. And through that, I met directors like Manikandan. And after I met Maniana, when he came to Toronto, he helped me realize that, well, first of all, he was just really happy and surprised that there was a young Tamil girl working at TIFF that chose his movie and who knew who Dhanush and Vetrimaran and all those people were. Yeah. And he basically told me what you did for our film, there's so many other filmmakers I know who need help like this, that advocating for them basically to international film festivals and programmers. So when Maniana went back home after TIFF, he just started telling my name to a lot of the filmmakers he knew. And they started reaching out to me independently, asking me if I would help them with, packaging their film for international markets. So whether that was film festivals or buyers from abroad. And that's how it got started. I was doing that independently on the side while working full time. And after I left my full-time job at TIFF and decided to go to India to get film production experience, which I did in 2016, when I got there, I just had so many more filmmakers coming to meet me from different states, from different language businesses, not just Tamil films, who were like, hey, you're the one who helped, take these films. We need your help too. So just being there and seeing how many more filmmakers were interested in the service, really, Money and I sat down and we were like, okay, this is something. Like, I don't think I realized how much of a market there was until I got there.
Mm.
So he just advised me. He was like, you know what, I think you should do this like a real thing, full time, or just make it more formal than what you're kind of just independently doing out of passion and volunteering on the side. So I did that. I started VFC. And so our mission is to help filmmakers find their focus, but mainly it's about helping them find more international audiences that might not have got to see their film, if they weren't already, if they didn't speak the language, like I think now about how many audiences, most of the people who came to see Kakumurti at TIFF, to be honest, like they were not Tamil, right? Like, I don't know if you were at any of the screenings, but when we were up there, yeah, I think you were, I remember us meeting there, right? But like, most of the crowd was not Tamil or South Asian, really. Is majorly non-South Asian people. And they were drawn in by the, the poster, the synopsis, the pitch that was written for it at the, in the TIFF programming booklet. And they loved it. Like the audiences, I remember the screening sold out, but the amount of people that came up to us after the movie was done to be like, we love this. Like, how can we see more movies like this? I want to bring that kind of experience to so many more audiences. So yeah, so I started UFC when I was there. And since then, we've represented over 45 movies. We've taken them to maybe 110 or 20 odd festivals, and we've sold quite a few, or helped the producers and directors sell quite a few to Amazon and Netflix. And some shorts that we represented as well are available on some YouTube channels, such as, Gautam Menon's YouTube channel even has some of the shorts that we've repped before. So it's great. I'm so happy that I made that decision. It was completely, I wouldn't say completely, but somewhat spontaneous. I did not go to India, nor did I foresee myself starting a business before I went there. But yeah, 4 or 5 years later, very happy that I did. But yeah, when I moved back home, 2016, 17, I focused on VFC for a while, full time. And then I went back to full-time work again here in Canada in 2018.
Got it. Well, I mean, I really like the mission of what you just described. I feel like there's a real appetite for foreign films, especially after Parasite won Best Film. And like, I think just generally I think people also love movies, like moviegoers, because it lets them kind of experience other kinds of things, or like, see different parts of the world, see other cultures without leaving where they are. So I think I think that demand will only go up. Do you see kind of your business pivoting in the sense that there's not really film festivals happening? Maybe in the next couple of years it'll start up again, but has it pivoted to like more so representing films, to getting in on maybe like digital platforms like a Netflix, or like how do you see it changing based on the current environment?
Yeah. So like I mentioned before, we have helped with the sale of a couple of films to Amazon and Netflix.
Nice.
So that was always like a function of the business, but I'd say what my expertise has always been more with the film festival pitching and marketing to that particular arena. So I don't think film festivals are going away. It's just that unfortunately with COVID, a lot of the smaller ones just, they won't maybe won't make it through, just because funding has been cut back for a lot of those kind of ventures, right? So of course the Goliaths, I think they'll be all right. It's just a matter of time before we can get back to that fully in-person version, right? Until then, we've got these hybrids, or we've got entirely online. I don't think that festivals will go away entirely. So I don't think that like the aim of our business will necessarily go away. But to be honest, I always also, I shouldn't say always, but in the last few years have realized that I also want to progress this business into a production company, which is what we've been doing recently. So, as of last year, we finished our first production. It was a short film called TIFF, or Untouchability, and that is currently doing its rounds at film festivals right now. So we've had about 5 selections, 2 more to come that we can't announce just yet. And we're actually playing right now on demand at the South Asian Film Festival of America. So they have a virtual festival going on right now. So you can buy a pass online and watch a whole bunch of wonderful shorts and features until March 19th, I believe. So look for us there. We're on the shorts program and we're called Untouchability.
That's awesome. And what does production, okay, so you hear the term a lot, like you're a producer of a film or a show. What does that
Mhm.
actually mean?
I mean, I'm trying to figure it out myself. But yeah, no, there's actually there's different types of producing, right? Like, and it's funny because I have learned from years of working between both markets of like Canada and India that uh, different producing means different things in different countries or industries. So in India, a producer, if you say they're the producer, often it just means they give the money and they're not involved like at all. They're just
Yeah.
literally the financier, right? But here in Canada, a producer is usually way more involved in the creative development, like from the story arc to every little bit, casting and all the decisions. So in India too, there are producers like that as well, but sometimes a producer can mean just arm's length, like here's your money. So I also have to remember that when we literally for our short Untouchability, we say I'm the producer because I funded it and I was involved from a creative perspective, but at a distance. I wasn't there every day during filming. I wasn't a line producer, meaning I wasn't helping with the day-to-day coordination, but I did have final say on the creative output and of course on how the funds were used. So I'm a producer in that sense. Now, if it was happening here in Canada, I would probably have been more involved in the filming and everything. And then my title might have been slightly different, maybe creative producer or executive or line versus just producer. So it depends on the industry and the country you're talking about, actually.
So can you tell us a bit more about the actual film itself?
Short, yeah, the short. So yeah, Tite was great or is great. So it's directed and written by Harish Narayan, and Harish was the winner of our very first script competition. So I'm trying now, all the dates are blurring together in my mind because of COVID, but I believe it was 2019. He won our very first edition of so I started a fund in my late father's name. It's called the Dilani Rabindran Short Film Fund. And so for that fund, we started a script competition to solicit short film scripts from around the world. And we picked a first prize winner and a second prize winner. And the first prize winner would get their film financed using a prize or a fund money set aside from this fund that I started in my dad's name. So Harish was the very first winner. And we loved his short, his idea. I thought it was topical, it was hard hitting, and it is about the unfortunate persistence of the caste system in India, even in really metropolitan parts of Chennai. And it's a less than 7-minute short, but trust me, in those 7 minutes, it says a lot. So I'm very, very happy with all the selections that we've got from festivals and the wonderful feedback we get from programmers who are so excited to put it in their showcase. And I think just the fact that it could say so much in that short amount of time gives you a little insight into, how powerful it is. So we are hoping after we have another international premiere in the summer that we'll be releasing on a YouTube channel or potentially a shorts platform like an app in India. So stay tuned. It will be available for public viewing like later this year.
I'm excited. I can't wait to see it. So beyond films, I know that you're creative in general, just based on kind of, your website as well. So I know you've written for Tamil Culture and you've written for a few other platforms. Can you tell us about some of the writing work you're doing? I think you did Behindwoods and I think with Juggernaut now.
Yeah.
So you do film, you do writing, like what don't you do? Like tell us a bit about that.
I don't sleep. No, I'm just joking. No, COVID has actually helped me get a lot more rest and sleep. So I'm very grateful for that. Writing work, yeah, I'm very happy right now. I currently write once in a while for the Juggernaut, which is a publication that I really admire. So they're a US based magazine. Snigdha, the young woman who started it, is really enterprising and wonderful. And I was very happy. The opportunity to write for it actually came up late in 2020. And since then, I've only written 3 pieces, but I really am glad for the let's say for that format and for that audience to be able to write for them. It's very different from any of the publications that I've written for before. I did start my writing journey, I should say, in 2013 with Behindwoods. Yeah. So what's interesting is that Behindwoods is actually probably exactly why or how I got my foot into the Indian film industry. So I started writing as a columnist, their only columnist from North America. And I had a column called East Meets West at the time. And it was, giving my Canadian perspective on Tamil movies. So it was interesting because Behindwoods has a really large, consumer base as well. So it was really great because I knew that my writing was being read by people around the world. And I love that. But it was writing for Behindwoods that actually got me noticed at TIFF when I was already working there full time, but in finance. The programming team there actually noticed my writing getting more and more popular for Behindwoods. And they reached out to ask me if I would be interested in helping to program South Asian films because they knew they had a really good understanding of Hindi and Bollywood, but they were looking to expand their knowledge of South Indian cinema for their programming. So in a roundabout way, Behindwoods helped me, move up and get more opportunities at TIFF. And I think as my responsibilities at TIFF grew, it just kind of increased my profile in writing. It was a weird chicken before the egg, or I don't know what it is, yeah, I owe a lot to my writing career. So I was really excited to get back into writing at the end of last year with Juggernaut. And yeah, like you mentioned before, I've written for Tamil Culture as well in between. I really, really enjoyed getting to chronicle my travels while I was living and working in Chennai for Tamil Culture. So that was and now I think back on it, it's like a good time capsule. Like it's a good way to remember and kind of look back on that time as well.
What I find really fascinating about what you just mentioned about the Behindwoods and the TIFF connection is I think a lot of people, like you try to plan for things, like you're going to try to be strategic, but sometimes you can't really plan for these things. Like you do stuff you enjoy, you put it out there, and then, the right people and the right network will kind of find your work. And even with TC, like there's people when I've traveled like across the world that have stumbled across our stuff. And like, it's like the strangest connection to like how they found out about TC. So I thought that was really interesting what you mentioned about the Behindwoods and TIFF connection. You talked about Chennai, and I thought you were still living there, so I guess
we're a little bit out of touch right now.
It's probably because
just a little bit.
It's probably because I was reading about the TC articles. But something I'm very curious about is I've never been to Chennai. I grew up in Sri Lanka. I don't remember that as well either. But there's a lot of misconceptions, I think, about someone that's living in the West and what they perceive, say, Chennai. Like for me, I don't know if I see it as this big modern metropolitan city, but like I know people that have gone there and it's like amazing. Like, it's like a Tokyo, it's like a, London. So can you tell me your experience and like even misconceptions that you hear about Chennai and what you actually experienced?
So I miss Chennai a lot. So what's funny is that we're talking today, we're recording on the 11th of March.
Yeah.
And exactly a year ago today, I landed in Chennai.
Wow.
In the morning. And by that night in Indian time, I was getting calls from my loved ones and everyone back home about how schools were shut down here, work got closed, and the World Health Organization had just named it a pandemic, right? So my mom had come with me. This was my first time back in Chennai after 3 years. I was really excited to reunite with my friends, and I had a lot of meetings booked for VFC. And then there we were, in a pandemic. And so what we did was we booked the first flight out that we could get to come back home, because we just had a feeling that, I was supposed to stay for a month, and we just had a feeling, there might be a problem getting back home. So I left within 48 hours, so I had literally 2 days this time last year in Chennai. I got to see some of my very closest friends for a very short period of time. Shout out to my Chennai crew. They're the best. And so it breaks my heart now to think about that. But yeah, I loved living in Chennai. I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, I certainly missed home, and, like any person, I think, felt homesick. And there were certain things, obviously, that are always going to be very different between living here in Canada and living there. But I really enjoyed it for the experience that it was. I had the fortune of having these really wonderful friends there who looked out for me. And so and a lot of my friends were also they were from surrounding areas of Tamil Nadu, or they were from Bangalore or something, and they were living and working in Chennai. So it was a lot of people who were there on their own, pursuing their careers, most of us within film. And so it was great, because we were all kind of like each other's, local family unit there in Chennai. So I mean, I think a lot of people might think, I do feel I've heard and read that there's a lot of misconceptions that Chennai is like uber traditional compared to other parts of India, or it's not as like fun and modern or something like that. And I completely disagree. I do think that, yes, it's maybe not, it's not like there's as many pubs or clubs as there would be in like Mumbai or Delhi or things like that, or Bangalore even. But Chennai is like really, really happening in its own right. I personally loved the arts and culture, just passion that's there. One of my favorite things to do was to go see theater performances, plays, improv, and dance performances often with my friends there. I really miss that. And so for me, I know some people might think, oh, or I have heard the stories, it's not as, modern. Yeah, I think so. Maybe in certain things you could see, maybe in the ways that people dress, or maybe women in particular, comparatively with Chennai compared to Bangalore, Mumbai, or things like that. But I don't know. For me, Chennai was great. It was like the perfect balance of fun city life and also that quiet. I wouldn't say quiet because I lived on a very busy street, but you know what I mean? Like a good balance of that tradition with modernism,
What's a comparable city that's in the West, like in North America, that you could say
Huh.
is fairly
It's
similar?
close to, I don't know. Can I say Mississauga? Maybe that's why it fit me so well. I don't know.
Got it.
Yeah, no, I'm not really sure. That's a good question. I don't think I've traveled enough of North America to find that perfect comparison. But all I can say is I really liked Chennai. I really like living there. I found that it had the right pockets of, excitement and fun. And then you have your quiet, relaxing, peaceful areas too, like even the beach, right? I remember you could have so much fun at like a hot spot by the beach, but you could also get that beautiful nature and just kind of serene, quieter areas too. And I think that's what I like about it way more. I've been to Mumbai, I've been to Delhi, I've been to Bangalore. I do like Bangalore a lot too, but I definitely felt like Delhi and Mumbai for me were a bit too congested. Like it is really crowded city. So Chennai had that nice, open space as well.
I guess it sounds like to me, my favorite country to visit has been Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like Tokyo is kind of like Bangalore or Mumbai, and I feel
Mm-hmm.
like Chennai is probably like Kyoto.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
don't know. I have
So,
to talk to my people who've been to Japan a bit more and do some dissecting and see if that makes sense.
well,
Yeah.
based on how you described it, like that mix
Yeah.
between kind of nature and city, sounds
Hmm.
like it. So that's pretty cool. I know you kind of touched on this with, you have this group of friends in Chennai. You guys are kind of all pursuing careers in the creative arts. I know there's still a misconception, not misconception. I would say it wasn't viewed positively to have a career in the creative arts space. I would say, like, not like like a doctor, a lawyer, etc.
Hmm.
Do you think this is changing now that, like, I think people are realizing the importance of creative arts in the kind of in anybody's day to day, like whether it's music, film, books, etc.
Hmm. Um, I'm not 100% sure if I could say that the opinion of it is changing in older generations. So maybe in our parents or grandparents' generations. I think it's all about, you know, their approval or their support or encouragement of it, I think depends on how that person is pursuing it. So I can only speak, I think it's better that I speak from my own perspective. So for example, for me, I did my undergraduate degree in science and mathematics, and then I went on to do my MBA. Pursuing my MBA, knowing that I wanted it to act as a bridge between my undergrad degree and getting into the business side of film and entertainment. So if I had gone about that in a different way, I mean, my parents are wonderful. They were always extremely supportive of what I did, but I also know that I did it in a very I wouldn't say
Acceptable.
low risk, but it was like a calculated manner. Like my MBA is a universal degree. I know that had I not been able to get something within the film and entertainment world, I could take that degree and work in a multitude of industries, right?
Mhm.
So I think in that regard, there wasn't that like worry, like, oh, what are you going to do if you can't get something in this field? Like your degree or your background is entirely dependent on you getting a job in that. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
had it been a different path or a way to get here, I'm not sure, but I'd like to think they would be supportive. But I know that I myself was really risk averse for a long time, right? So I went about doing things and pursuing my degree and jobs in a very planned and manner, right? So for me, I know my parents were supportive because they knew that I knew what I was doing and that I was going to be fine no matter what, right? But if I had, say, told them at age 16 I was going to run off to be an actress in Tamil movies,
Mhm.
or wanted to be like or wanted to go to film school, I still like to think that I believe that they'd be supportive, but I know that I wasn't that person who was ready to go that far away, stray that far away from the traditional path at that time.
Makes
You know
sense.
what I mean? Yeah.
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 And you talked about mitigating risk. So I guess that's part of the reason why you have a full-time job at Cineplex, but it's also,
Mhm.
it seems like it's aligned with your passions with media,
Mhm.
right? So tell us more about that job.
Yeah, so I work I'm a manager of marketing partnerships there. So it means I handle the parts of our business that do these promotions and partnerships with other corporations. So things like when you go to the grocery store and see cereal boxes and say, buy a couple of cereal boxes and turn them in for Cineplex passes, things like
Mhm.
that. And also, in particular, helping to lead the expansion of a lot of our online digital business, because we do have our own streaming platform for
Mhm.
transactional business called the Cineplex Store. So I joined Cineplex in late 2019. So it was about 6 months or 5 months before the pandemic hit. And it was a whirlwind of a time. To be honest, like COVID through our team or my team's business into overdrive because of the streaming platform naturally. So it's been really, really go, go, go since the start of the pandemic. And I really love the team I work with. We're really adaptable and we're really, everyone's working there out of a passion for film and entertainment as well. So I really like being a part of a group like that. So yeah, I definitely intentionally pursue these 9 to 5 or these full-time jobs that are still in the film and media sector because I do feel that it all helps build my overall portfolio, and I don't think I would be necessarily as satisfied or happy in life if my 9 to 5 was something completely unrelated to film and I had to do everything related to media and movies only after hours.
Mm, got it. Obviously, we're like on a podcast, so what I guess there are other forms of kind of sharing information.
Uh-huh.
I was curious. I always like to ask everybody, is there like a book or other podcasts that like you listen to that have like really made a big impact on kind of the way you think or behave?
Mhm. Um, my so to be really honest, I used to read a lot more years ago, and then for a long time I barely read anything. Except for like my exception was I always made time to read the books of my favorite comedians or favorite comedians turned authors. So some of my favorite books are the ones by Bossy Pants by Tina Fey, or, Mindy Kaling's books and things like that. So I recently got back into reading, thank you, pandemic. And I recently read Ali Wong's book called Dear Girls, which is kind of like her letters to her daughters about how she got into comedy, the things that she's learned along the way. It's written a lot like her stand-up, which I really like too. So I really enjoyed that. If I could, I don't know if I could pick out one particular book that I've read recently that maybe completely changed the way I live, but I do enjoy reading the work of successful women in the entertainment business in particular. Podcast wise, I now host a new podcast called The Attitude. That is a division of Pink Attitude Evolution. So that's a nonprofit here in Canada that helps promote South Asian women and their endeavors, and also does a lot of good in the community, raising donations and funds for worthwhile causes. So I'm really glad we actually just launched our show this week. So I'm really excited about our journey. And I think just being a part of that team in the last 6 months and helping to get that initiative off the ground has really taught me a lot about myself, because I used to host a podcast in India called One by Two with raga.com. And we were a really small team, me and my producer, and a lot of it was, me doing everything. I'm sure in the way that you're doing right now.
Yes.
And now being a part of The Attitude on a bigger team with, a producer, audio engineer, and everybody who have great experience from TV and other ventures here in Canada. I think it's so nice to be a part of a bigger unit and not have to do everything.
Yeah.
I know you know what I'm talking about. But I working with them has really helped, shape, I think, a lot of me and a lot of growth in the last couple of months, because it's just been an entirely new experience compared to my podcasting or projects I've been a part of before.
So speaking of growth, what's a new belief or behavior that's kind of really helped you, get to the next level, right? Whether it's personally or professionally.
Delegating,
Yeah.
So VFC, when I started VFC, it was very much a one-woman show, and I started to grow it by recruiting a lot of freelancers and, part-time help. And it has become so imperative for me to get that help when I need it, not only to just balance the workload, but also to bring in new perspectives. Because sometimes, there's a movie I'll watch and I'll love, and then, I'm kind of I have high hopes for it. I think of the journey that we can have with it for festivals and things like that. And then, I need that I need that other people's opinions to make sure that I'm not overshooting something or undervaluing something, film criticism and evaluation is all subjective, right? And so a lot of the work that VFC does, it is entirely based on my opinion, and it is subjective. And I say that to filmmakers every time, I make a decision on whether I will or will not represent their film. I always tell them, this is my personal opinion. You're welcome. I say I'm not interested in representing their films for festivals. I always tell them, this is my opinion. If you still want to pursue that festivals, it's completely up to you. So I'm never offended if a film that I'm not interested in working with at the time, chooses another person's services. But I'm really, really fortunate that most of the films I've repped to date, those filmmakers appreciate my work and they bring it back, right? And bring it back to me. So I do like having a team I can delegate to and seek the opinion of, because it makes sure that I'm not also, being, what's the word? My opinions aren't biased, especially if it's working with a filmmaker I've worked with before. And maybe I'm like, okay, well, I like this movie too, but maybe it's not as strong as the first one. I need those other opinions to help make decisions now, I think. And it's I think it's only helped make me more what's the word? Productive with my time. Not only getting their help, but just making sure I'm only taking part in the right projects, the ones that deserve our time too.
it sounds easy what you said, but it's a really hard skill that I think a lot
Delegating?
of,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so
So
hard.
it's very hard. Yeah. Because I think most,
Especially when you're like, I do call myself, I think I'm much better now, but I am a
yeah,
self-professed control freak. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So obviously we're both Tamil, and for me it's a big part of like my identity and how I view myself. How do you feel about like Tamil and like that, like Tamil as being part of your identity? And I
Mhm.
guess being part of both the Toronto and Chennai community briefly, like what has been the impact of both cities and the communities there on you personally and from a business perspective?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was born and raised here in Canada. My parents and my brother came here from Sri Lanka before I was born. So I identify as Canadian, Sri Lankan or Canadian Tamil, because for me, I think growing up here is a big reason, is a big part of my success, right? The opportunities that were available to me through education and through the things that my parents put me in when I was young, like music and dance and all those things, like they all helped to shape my cultural identity. So I'm very fortunate for the opportunities I had that helped me discover, more about being South Asian, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I regret that when I was growing up, Tamil class wasn't as popular or wasn't as
yeah,
widespread,
yeah.
because had it been, I would be way more fluent than I am now, So for me, being Tamil, I think it's enveloped within my identity when I describe myself as a Canadian South Asian woman. Yeah. With regards to Toronto and Chennai, like Chennai was really, really a wonderful time in my life. It's a city that I plan to return to often again when, or hopefully once, travel is possible again. But to me, it's like a second home because of the experiences and the people that I have there. But for me, Toronto and Canada is truly home. I can't really imagine. It was a wonderful chance to get to live and work in India, but I can't imagine really being there full time necessarily away from here, away from my family and my unit here. Yeah.
Hmm, okay. You talked about a few people, like you talked about reading books about like entertainers or women in the entertainment space.
Mhm.
Um, so I guess my next question kind of leads to that, which is who's one person, I kind of can guess your answers, but who is one person from the global Tamil community that you admire?
Yeah.
And who's one person that isn't Tamil that you admire? And
Okay.
and why?
And they have to be from the entertainment space,
No,
like
no,
public.
it can be
They
from,
don't.
I was just guessing, but maybe I'm completely off. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no. You probably guessed right. I do really admire Mindy Kaling. I
Yes.
really, I admire her as a storyteller, as a writer, as one of the few writers of color that was in the writers' room on one of the greatest shows ever made, like The Office, and working at NBC at a young age at the time that she was, and transitioning to be a producer and showrunner of her own with like Mindy Project and now with a producer with Never Have I Ever and the other shows that she has in the works. I really, really admire her work in the field. If I was younger, I would definitely apply to be an intern for her. But yeah, she's certainly somebody I admire. Someone who's not Tamil that I admire in the entertainment space. There's quite a few. If I had to narrow in on one, I particularly like Issa Rae and her work.
Yes, I love
Yeah,
her. Her show was awesome. What was it called?
yeah,
Uh,
Insecure.
yes, Insecure.
Yeah,
So good, so good.
yeah, and I really admire these kind of these strong women that are in entertainment who are carving, you know, profound spaces for themselves and not necessarily adhering to just the old tropes of like typical TV writing or things like that, right? Yeah.
Side note about Insecure, like I absolutely love that show just because it's one of those shows. It's like watching, oh my goodness, Aziz Ansari. What was this?
Oh, Master of None,
Yeah,
another show I
because
really liked and
because
I wish there were more seasons of.
yes, I thought there would be, and like I think I like both of those shows because it showed people of color, like think about Insecure, where it's
Yeah.
not like these caricature like
Yeah.
characters. It's like normal people every day, hear things that they go
Just
through.
yeah.
So like yeah.
I'm so happy you said Master of, or Aziz and sorry, Master of None, because that also reminded me, you know what? I like, in addition to Issa Rae, I'd also like to say that one of the people I admire most is Donald Glover. He is just one of my absolute favorite performers, acting, music wise, everything. So I really, really wish there was another season of Atlanta out. And I hope that one day he agrees to make one because it's one of my favorite shows. And music wise, he's one of my favorite artists.
Awesome. I guess like the last question before we get into the fun speed round is in terms of your personal legacy, like you do a lot, and like I think people are going to really enjoy listening to this episode. In a few sentences, like how would you describe the legacy you want to be remembered, like how you want to be remembered by friends and family?
Oh, interesting. Hmm. I think I would be happy being remembered as a strong advocate for creators. So I enjoy creating myself. I enjoy writing, but I think that my strong suit lies more in helping maybe undiscovered or just talented filmmakers who just deserve more attention, helping to bring them more to the spotlight, helping to bring their work to international audiences. I think that's what gives me the most joy, to be honest. And that's why I want to be a producer as well. So I would be happy if my legacy was about that I was a champion for other creators.
Well, we got the serious stuff out of the way, and it was amazing. I think people are going to really enjoy it, like I was saying. So this round is, I call it different things, but today I'm going to call it Would You Choose? And I'm going to
Okay.
ask you two different things. You're going to pick one of them and you're going to tell me why.
Okay.
Okay? Ready? So the first one's a light one. Mutton rolls or koth roti?
Oh, Kodoroti. Because there's a because mutton rolls for me are sometimes hit or miss. And I
True.
basically like the
Yeah,
pastry more than I do the filling.
sure.
I can't handle too much spice, to be really honest. And
Got it.
sometimes mutton rolls just like set my mouth on fire. But Kodoroti like has a special place in my heart. So
And what's your go-to place for koth roti?
ooh, okay. No, this changes because it kind of depends. Like for a while, it's the spot near me. But I'm just gonna give a shout out to like Uppa's Original, the new place that
Oh,
opened a
yes.
couple of months ago, like
Yes.
with
Yes.
their fusion kotaroti, like their seafood kotaroti that
Mm.
my lovely cousin Sabrina brought me around Christmas time. Like shout out to Sabrina for that. Like I dream about that seafood kotaroti now. It's so good.
Good to know. Movie star or successful producer?
Oh, what does movie star mean though? You
Uh,
can be a star producer.
okay. So maybe I guess a better one would be, would you rather be a Tina Fey
Mhm.
or, my goodness, or like a Maitri Ramakrishnan?
Oh, she's so young and youthful. Do I want to go back? Can I go back to her age? No. Tina Fey, she's a boss lady. Yeah.
Okay. Condo or house?
Condo because I don't want to mow. I hate shoveling snow right now.
So do you live in a condo, I guess, right now?
No, right now, no, I live in a house,
Okay,
and yeah, this winter, the February was not fun. Like every day
got
of
it.
shoveling, right?
It's like I feel like I love debating this question with like all my friends. Like I feel like I'm the
Mhm.
only one that voluntarily chooses condo. I love condo
Okay.
living. Toyota or Tesla?
I don't know enough about cars, but
Okay.
but people talk about Tesla to me all the time. So I'll say Tesla. If you're giving them away, Ara, I'll take a Tesla. Like,
This question is kind of basically to kind of gauge, are you Toyota's like practical, Tesla is like,
oh, over the
nice to,
top.
yeah,
No.
yeah.
Well, I wish I had, okay, let's put it this way. I'll say Tesla because I hope that I have the money to buy a Tesla.
Is there a Tamil creator that, has really caught your eye in the last couple of years that maybe you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, so there's a lot of really great Tamil creators right here in Toronto that I think are hustling hard, and there's so many like various businesses I've seen crop up even during pandemic and things like that. I think the Canadian Tamil Professional Association does a really good job, and Tamil Culture. Like you guys do a great job of highlighting these people. Someone else I'd love to give a shout out to is my brother. So my brother Krish Rabindran, Anton Rabindran, depending on how you know him, he does a really great job he has a design company called Human Rights Design. He does custom watches, jewelry, and furniture. And I really admire him for balancing like his passion with, being a father of twin boys, being a great husband and father, and, a high up full-time position as well. Like, if it means that he's up at 5 a.m. welding, like he's happy to do it, because I think he's a really good example of if you have passion, then there will be enough hours in the day, to pursue it.
That's awesome. Maybe we'll get him. Maybe we'll chat with him as well. And shout out to my fellow twin dad as well.
Yeah.
The last question, and I think this might be the toughest. Actually, no, maybe not. Toronto or Chennai?
Oh, Toronto. I mean, I miss Chennai. I miss all my Chennai friends if you're listening to this. But Toronto is home. I have a huge family, wonderful friends, and a beautiful unit. So I really, really don't imagine living away from my circle, from my bubble right now. Shout out to my bubble.
Got it. Well, some of those answers I expected, some of them I didn't. So I learned something new.
Was it the cutthroat mutton rolls one?
Yeah, that was like it really stumped me, but to each their own. Yeah, I guess the last part of kind of today's chat will be, you've kind of talked about all the things you're doing. Maybe leave listeners with kind of a few of the projects that you want to kind of highlight. So you talked about the film that it's being streamed on demand in different film festivals. Where can people find you? What else are you kind of working on? Yeah, tell us about that.
Absolutely. So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Dilani_R. So it's DILANI_R. And, or you can visit my website at DilaniRabindran.com. What I'm working on right now, like I mentioned, I'm part of a brand new podcast that just launched this week called The Attitude. And the aim of that show is to inspire and motivate South Asian women in their careers and endeavors. And I'm really, really excited about co-hosting that show with being a part of a great team. Other projects or things that I'm working on. So I was recently selected as one of 12 candidates from across Canada to be a part of the Real World Producer Program. So it is a program presented by the Real World Film Festival and Screen Institute, sponsored by Bell Media. And so they are developing or helping the 12 of us develop into TV producers. So hopefully by the end of this year, I may be pitching shows to networks and broadcasters here in Canada. And who knows, maybe I will, get closer to being a Mindy Kaling in some time.
Maybe you'll create your own Kim's Convenience.
Maybe. I mean, I know. Did you hear about the news? There's no more sixth season. Are you so sad? I was fully watching the latest episode, like before our recording, by the way.
Oh, really? I gotta watch that tonight, I think. Yeah. That was definitely a show that I never expected to like as much as I did. But it's just kind of, I just saw like, I think anybody that's like an immigrant would just kind of identify with the show. Even they call the parents Amma and Appa, which is.
Yeah. I have a couple of Korean friends, and I remember when I learned that years ago, I was like, did you know we call our parents like the same thing? It's interesting. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, I think you're going to get definitely a lot of people reaching out to you. This is awesome. I really enjoyed it. Maybe we'll have you on again. Maybe once you go through this program and you pitch your first show, we'd love to kind of get an update.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.